Going live.
Hey y'all, I am James Wright and welcome to the shop. We're going to have fun tonight as it is our monthly Q&A. So we get to answer whatever questions you have. It looks like there are quite a few in the chat tonight. So if you are joining us live, feel free to go ahead and throw those in the chat. If you can put some modifier at the beginning like question or a big red dot or something of that nature, makes it stand out a little easier to catch. And then my wife down here will be organizing them all and asking them. So if you really want her to do something, then throw a super chatter because all the super chat money goes to her her cocoa fund. So
I guess I have to say it goes to the tool fund now. I don't know. I don't know. Rob's got a nice little dovetail saw that.
Yes. So yeah, if you haven't noticed, she finished her bench, and we put out the final video on that this last week. Once I clear the bench off with all of the chairs that we're working on, and we'll have some projects from Sarah. So some fun things coming up.
It's not like we don't have any other tables in this house you could use.
Things coming up. We're going to be doing a different live here. Around twice a year or so, we do a live build in the shop on the main channel. And it's on a Saturday morning, and we do an entire build in one time slot. So it's usually like 2 to 4 hours long. And so this next time, we're actually going to be making a turning saw. And I haven't decided if I want to make a turning saw or a coping saw. But I'm going to be telling you guys now because it is going to be 2 weeks from this Saturday. So not this Saturday, not the one after that, but the one after that. That Saturday, we're going to be doing the live. And so it is a chance that you can actually build along and do it live with me as we go through everything step by step. And I'm actually going to be using a kit from TayTools. He has the handle and the connectors and all the metal parts and the string, so we can make it. The only question is how big. I can make it this size, and I can get the blade from Gramercy. Or I've been thinking about making a smaller version of this with coping saw blades to do a little bit smaller work. Because sometimes this is just big and a bit cumbersome. And I would like a bow saw instead of a coping saw. Do that instead. I think that'd be kind of fun. So the nice thing about it, doesn't matter what size you make it, you're going to do all the same joinery on it. This one we actually did a live series like 2 years ago, making this one. So you want to see that, that's on the channel somewhere. But yes, if you would like to build along and actually do it live, go ahead and order your kit now from TayTools and get all that stuff ready and with the materials you want, and we will have a lot of fun making that live together. There was something else. I'm forgetting something. Oh, the giveaway. Yes, last week we had Rob Cosman on here, and we talked about the Purple Heart project. It was a lot of fun having him here, and kind of cool to actually pick his brain on the Purple Heart project. But Aaron Finn, which I don't know if he's in the chat right now. Good dinner. Aaron Finn actually offered to sponsor 2 shirts, so he is buying them from the Purple Heart project and going to then give them away. So one of them we gave away live last week, and the other one we're giving away this week from someone who commented on the video last week. And the winner for that one is, what's his name? I posted it in the sheet.
On the sheet? No, all you wrote was winner. Hang on.
Is the tab still on there?
The tab still up. John Sladewski.
Can you put that on the top of the sheet for me?
Yes.
John Sladewski. Sorry, totally butchering your name, but I replied to your comment on last week's video. We just need which shirt you want, your size, and your address to send it to, and we'll get that out to you. So congratulations on winning it. Yeah, so I think that is all of our preliminary, unless I'm forgetting something, which she'll be throwing a duck at me if I do, but that's normal. So. Let's start off. What questions we got?
Hang on, I'm cleaning up the mess.
I'm hanging on.
Okay, so poor man, to answer your question, the live build is August. It's the first Saturday in August?
I want to say it's that.
Okay, hang on.
It's 2 weeks from this Saturday.
7th of August. I think that's right. 2 weeks from this Saturday.
14 days from whatever.
August 7th.
Sounds good. I don't even know what day it is.
I know we have no children at home.
Yes, our kids are away at camp, so you won't be hearing thundering feet. There won't be anyone popping in the door. Yeah, it's kind of nice to have a really quiet house.
So if we have a few extra questions, I mean, Sarah still has to go to work tomorrow, so we can't be too late, but 5 or 10 minutes.
So what we got?
You won't have any problem with my name, Richard. Yeah. Let's see. We'll start off with Matt. I think it's pronounced tomon. What is a good carving wood?
Well, that is really dependent on you, and turn off the vent, otherwise it starts blowing up a microphone. It really depends on you and how you learn. If you are the type of person where you want to learn step by step and really grasp each step individually, I would start with something easy. Traditionally, the easiest and simplest wood to carve with is basswood. There's almost no grain structure to it. It carves beautifully. It's really easy. You can push into it. It doesn't splinter off. It's creamy. You do have to learn grain structure still, but it's not as much. And that way you can learn sharpening. You can learn on the easiest wood. Second would probably be like poplar or a walnut. Those are really nice woods to carve. However, if you're like me and you learn best by jumping at the deep end, I want to learn on the hardest wood I can so that everything else is then easier. And that doesn't always mean the most dense, the hardest wood. For me, actually one of the hardest woods would be something like a live oak or a white oak. Number one, it is dense. It is hard to push through. You've got to have a good sharp chisel. You can't take off too deep. But number two, the grain goes everywhere, and so you always have to be listening to the grain. And if you can carve something in oak, or something like a purple heart, something of that nature where it's a very stringy wood where the grain goes everywhere, you can then carve on anything because you have to learn all the skills to do that. But if you're the type of person where you just want to take it step by step and make it a little easier, basswood, walnut, poplar, those are all great beginner woods.
Okay, everyone's commenting because you said 2 weeks from this Saturday, and they're like, that's July 31st. It's August 7th. I promise. We have other plans on the 31st.
Is it?
It is. Just ignore the math.
So 3 weeks from the Saturday.
It's 3 weeks. It's August
3 weeks
7th.
from the Saturday. Forget
August
everything
7th.
I said. My wife is right. She's always right. She's looking at the calendar.
I'm glad you're finally admitting I'm always right. And it's live, so I have now validation.
Yes. It's Sarah A. Wright, and the A stands for always.
This is correct.
What's the next question?
Oh, our good friend Alex. What did Alex say? For the second time in a short period, I managed to chip the edge on my carving gouge. Does it mean I'm too aggressive for the gouge, or is the angle too shallow for my aggressiveness?
Yes, and yes, and yes.
With
a carving chisel, you often want to keep the angle at like 20 degrees. It's a very, very shallow bevel, and that allows it to slide into the wood with very little effort. The problem with that is if you put any leverage on that, if you twist it at all, or you try to turn it in the groove, you could very easily chip it off. And so you need to learn to slide with it rather than levering it. And that's very possible. That's the problem. It could be that you are lower than like 20 degrees. I have seen some people do it down to like a 15 degree. In that case, you look at it funny and it chips. So that could be the case. Another option could be that it is a new chisel. And a lot of times new chisels, the very tip of the chisel is a little bit harder than what's behind it. And that's just because when it is treated, the tip is a much thinner amount of steel, and so it gets to a little bit of a hotter temperature, and that can cause it to actually become more brittle. The best way to fix that is just grind it back a little farther, 3 or 4 sharpenings, and you're back to better steel. Some people will tell you stick it in an oven at 400 degrees for a few hours, and that's generally not a problem. If you have a wooden handle on there, be careful with that. Otherwise, you're going to start branding your iron with branding your handle with your iron racks. Yeah, you can do that about 400 degrees for 2 or 3 hours, and then slowly bring the temperature down from there. But most of the time, just sharpen it a couple times and you'll be down to decent steel. But if you're sharpening it and you chip it and then you sharpen it again and you chip it again, it's your technique or the bevel angle. What's next?
Let's see. Matt Tomon asks, have you ever used tea as a stain?
I haven't used tea. I've used coffee. There are a whole pile of natural stains out there from teas and barks and dirt and basically any natural dye you can stain wood with or dye wood with. But no, I haven't done tea much. I would assume it would be the same as like a coffee stain or whatnot. But there are lots of fun ways of doing it.
And if you'd use like a good chamomile, you can be very relaxed, or lavender.
Earl Grey.
I knew you were a robust.
I like a really good black tea. Well, I've never been a big fan of Earl Grey. It's a bit too strong for me.
I like Earl Grey. Rooibos is my favorite.
Rooibos is good.
But there's no caffeine in it. Anyways, we digress.
Moving on.
All right, Ari Stephen asks, Sarah, I know the workbench was a physically demanding project. What was the most important lesson you learned from that project that you would like to pass on to future beginners? Ooh, the most important lesson? Spend the money on epoxy because PVA sets too fast and you're going to do too much flattening with the plane. And James is breaking things.
I am breaking things. That's what I do.
Because he was like, the PVA's cheaper, but you got more time with epoxy. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it like everybody else. I'm not gonna pretend like I have knowledge. Go with the knowledge. Use the epoxy. Take those extra few minutes so you can straighten things. I mean, I got really good friends with the plane. But if I had to pick the most time-saving tip, I think that would be the one.
Yeah, on that note, the couple ways around it is the problem with the PVA is you have a certain amount of working time. And if you're going to do all of these laminations in order, by the time you get to the end, the first ones are starting to set. And so if there's any slight twist in the boards, you don't have a chance to check them and fix them out. And so the fix to that is you do them in sections. So you clamp together 3 or 4 boards, 3 or 4 boards, 3 or 4 boards, and then you clamp all those together. The problem with that is if there's any warp in those boards, they've gotten so thick that you're never going to be able to clamp that warp out of them. And so you have to be very, very careful with multi-lamination clamping. And so we were trying to show the cheaper way with the bench, as in being slightly more affordable, of using the common things, using a standard vise, using big box lumber, using regular wood glue, because epoxy is expensive. But that is one of those cases that, you know, if I'm going to do it for myself, I'm probably going to spend the money and get the epoxy because it gives you far more working time. It allows you to really dial in, and you can put winding sticks on them afterwards and make sure everything's twist free. And allows you just to, you spend less time flattening, which then means you got a thicker bench top and less work on it. But lots of things to decide one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And be patient that you may not understand concepts the first time around.
Yeah. Don't talk to Sarah about winding sticks.
Oh, winding sticks are my nemesis. But I think, you know, we're so, like, woodworking does not come naturally to me. And I think that's, you have to figure out your strength, and it's going to take time. And it's not always going to be fun. And James may have helped me with doing some of the work because time, we would have never finished this bench in 2021.
She doesn't like boring projects.
We're going to do more Sarah-sized projects in the future. But as James said, you got to be okay with imperfection. You got to be okay with learning and being a beginner and not knowing. Like,
Don't
if I could get
perfection.
ever James into the medical world, then, you know, he would be the novice at something. He'd be
Come
passed
here, I
out
want
on
to
the
stick
floor.
you.
He'd be passed out on the floor, but he'd be the novice. So,
We're not going to talk about fallopian tubes.
if you haven't seen Black Widow yet, it's got one of my favorite lines in the movie.
On that note, moving on, what's next?
Note. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple questions and then I'll pull the other questions that have come up. Brandon Chennault asked, hey James, I'm working on designing a wall shelf with walnut and red oak. Red oak? Really? No, I'm teasing. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate a French cleat hidden from view. Any suggestions on this?
French cleats for one shelf is usually a bad idea. Usually a bad idea. Unless you're going to do an inverted shelf. In other words, you have the shelf on the bottom, and then you have the cleats on the top, and then the cleats then hang on the French cleat rail. Because you want your weight to be below the cleat so that it hangs well. If you're putting your shelf and then you have a cleat behind that, now your weight is above the shelf, and that's going to be wanting to cantilever forward and off. Yeah, there are very few times where I would use a French cleat for a single shelf. Now, if you're talking about multiple shelves with a cleat and they all hang off of that, then that's great because then you have the weight of the lower shelves that are hanging off that top cleat. But answering your question about how do you hide it, I would say don't try and hide it. Try and make it part of the aesthetic. Put decorative pieces on the ends. Make it part of the whole design. Don't make it the shelf as the design, it just happened to be hanging on a French cleat. Make the French cleat part of the whole aesthetic. I've seen several with like a sawtooth pattern, not sawtooth, crenellation pattern. So you have this checkerboard zigzag that locks into each other. It also stops the French cleat from sliding side to side. Looks cool, adds a little bit in there. But yeah, it's one of the things that I think a lot of people end up trying to hide things with their woodworking, and that ends up making a lot more pain than just trying to incorporate it and make it part of the aesthetic. And I don't know if there really is a good way of hiding a French cleat behind a shelf. I don't know, I'd have to see pictures of what you're designing. I could go after that. So
Okay.
send me some email.
So, as you know, I am still a wood novice. What is a French cleat?
French cleat are the rails back here that everything's hanging on. So you have a 40.
Okay.
So you have a board to the wall and it has a 45-degree shelf on it. There's a matching 45-degree that hangs on it.
I was like, I know I've seen it, but I couldn't picture it. Hello, I just need to look left. But anyway.
Of course, in France, they actually call it the American cleat.
Well, there you go.
I would expect them just to call it the cleat, but
maybe it's the cleat. I don't know. I don't speak French.
What's next?
Let's see. Dr. Khan asked, any opinions on pulse scrapers?
I'm sorry. Pulse scrapers?
Pulse scrapers.
Oh, pole scrapers. It's the exact same as a card scraper, or any scraper can be used in push or in pull. It just depends on your personal design. They're not designed to be one way or the other. So if you're talking even like a cabinet scraper, you can trip on it, you can push it, or you can pull it. I think a lot of people get bent out of shape with planes, that Western planes are for pushing and Japanese planes are for pulling, when in all honesty, both of them can be used either direction. Quite often, when the grain turns around, it's just easier to turn the plane around and pull it, and it works just as well. But yeah, with card scrapers, there's no push or pull. They're just card scrapers. You can use it any way you want. At least if I'm thinking what you're thinking. If I'm not, then ask the question and get further clarification.
My thoughts are yours.
What's next?
Let's see. Anthony Lucivero? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Howdy, folks. Any good resources to learn about pre-modern boat building, as in colonial era and before?
I have not gotten too much into boat building, so I'm not the best person to ask this. I actually end up I'm thinking Acorn to Arabella and Samson Boat doing tally-ho. Those are two that I follow quite religiously. You also come across a YouTube channel called Total Boat. Not Total Boat. What is he called? What is it? Yeah, Total Boat. No, there's a different name to it. I'm probably thinking things wrong. Yeah, no, Total Boat. It's Total Boat, yeah. And he has been doing several projects and phenomenal teacher and a crazy amount of historical methods and uses. But other than that, I haven't really dove into the literature on it, just YouTube videos. So sorry, not the best resource for that.
My microphone is low and hard to hear.
Is your volume down a little bit?
I turned it up. Oh, I apparently have a stain on that jacket. Anyways.
I think mine is just a little hot.
Do you want me to turn you down?
No.
Or all the way up?
Yeah, bring yours up to match if so.
They don't want to hear you anyway. No, I'm sorry.
What's next?
Let's see. John Inderieden. I'm totally butchering that. I'm sorry. Will you be at the MWTCA tool show in Minnesota in October?
I am hoping to. It is on my calendar, and everything right now is saying yes.
I thought that's when we were on vacation.
No, that's after vacation.
Oh.
Yes, no, there's another one around vacation. The national will be in Kentucky while we're in vacation.
Gosh.
So I am hoping to get up to that one, Minnesota. I've only been to that one once before, and it's a nice one. It's not a huge one, but it is a very good, especially for Minnesota. There isn't too much that way. I actually want to stop at McNulty's place and do a video of his shop on the way up. What's next?
I always find out James's travel plans on the lives.
It's on the calendar. You haven't looked at October yet? Oh, here it comes.
There's too many cameras in my way to throw.
Why do you think I put 2 cameras between me and you? I put all the expensive things betwixt us.
It's a great golf. All right, Craig Elliot wants to know, does TayTools hardware work with the Gramercy blades? I've been planning to make 1 or 2 of both.
Yes. Actually, this kit is the Gramercy kit, and TayTools has the exact same adapters. They're intended to hold the pinned pieces, so they're pretty universal. Whoop! Oh, don't yank the cable. Unplugging things. And yes, it'll work with the longer Gramercy or the newer. Here we go. So it works with the ones that have these pins on the end. So they're the same as the ones in the Gramercy kits. Focus. There we go. No, it's not quite. There we go. So same thing, just bigger blades. So yeah, if you want to make a larger turning saw, you can get the Gramercy blade. The TayTools kit is a bit cheaper and more cost effective, and it also comes with pre-made handles. They are made out of, I think it's ash. They look like ash. But it has the hardware. The hardware on the TayTools kit is made of steel, whereas the hardware from the Gramercy kit is made of brass. You can buy knobs made by Gramercy, but they're a little more expensive. But other than that, the TayTools is just a little more cost effective, but you're getting steel instead of brass. So if you like the look of brass, then get the Gramercy kit. It's basically the same thing. What's next?
Dennis Meko asks, what is the best wood and size of dowel to make a Moxen vise screw, and how many threads per inch?
You know, honestly, for a Moxen vise, you don't need to go any you don't need to go any bigger than like a 1-inch screw. I think mine is what, 6, 8, something like that. The more aggressive the thread, the faster it moves. But usually the Moxen vise, you aren't worried about moving very fast because you have like a 3/4 inch board in there, and you just loosen enough to pull the board out, put it in, and tighten it back up. So a finer thread gives you a little bit more torque, but most of the time it's not a big deal, something around 6 to 8. I actually use the tap and die set you can buy on Amazon for around $50 or so. And that works out pretty well. Actually, if you go back and watch, I have 3 different Moxen vise videos now, but I have one that I made completely with wooden screws and made nuts for it.
So you have a lot of vices.
I have a lot of vices. The last time I counted, it was like 13 vices in the shop.
Oh, you have more than that.
But yeah, if you want to see it, I think in that video I have links to the exact tap and die I used. So straightforward. What's next?
Okay, I love this name. Phylaxis. Anaphylaxis.
Oh, shock. Yes, I got it. Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I enjoy it. Thank you very much.
The nurse approves.
What brand of hand carving tools do you recommend?
In my book, the best out there is File. PH, it's spelled weirdly. I like them. They're expensive, but they're very, very good. They're a lifetime tool. Next down the list would be Two Cherries. Incredibly good. They tend to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more beefy. Very, very good tools. They are a lifetime tool. They're a little bit cheaper, a little more cost effective. Some people don't like the fit and finish on them quite as much, but they're very, very good. Then once you get those two, there's a bunch of other brands in there that they're good. They're general. If you want to come from the other end, and where I would say the cheapest, that is the starter friendly, I would go with Schaff, which is it's another spelling S-C-H.
Oh, Schaff.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, but they're yelling feel at me.
Oh yeah, P-H-E-I-L. It's spelled file. It's file. Well, I talked to someone from the company, and I heard 3 different ways to pronounce it from someone at the company. So most people I hear say file, but I don't know. It's German. And Schaff is the Dutch word for hand plane, which is kind of interesting. But again, it doesn't look like it's spelled. It's like schaaf.
It isn't an S-C-H-A-A-F.
That sounds right.
It'd be a very Dutch way to spell something.
That sounds right. Those, you can buy a kit on Amazon that's 12 chisels for $100 with the tool row, which, it's less than $10 a piece. That is just, you cannot beat that with a stick. I used to say if the chisel costs less than $20, it's trash. There have been a few companies that have made decent tools below $20, but I just did a video not too long ago with Schaff, and I bought a set of theirs to play around with, and I'm impressed. It's kind of hit or miss with how sharp they come from the store, so you're probably going to have to sharpen to get them up and going. But as to the quality, for the price is phenomenal. If you buy them straight from the company, you do have an option where you can get them sharpened from the company. The one on Amazon that I got said they were sharpened, but they weren't. But the one from the company, you actually get the hand sharpening on them. It costs a bit more, but it's nice to know if you're new to it what sharp actually feels like. So that would be the low end that I would say to. Do not buy carving tools from Harbor Freight. It's a kit that says carving tools on it. They are not carving tools. They're actually mechanical scrapers, I found. They're not carving tools, and they won't work as carving tools. They're trash. And you'll find that kit sold by several different companies on Amazon all over the place. And they all say carving tools. You can buy a kit for $12. They're not worth. They're not worth the firewood that are on the handles. So yeah.
How do you really?
What's next?
Let's see. Tiny Woodshop. My holdfast won't hold. I already made the hold a bit bigger from underneath, but no luck. Any suggestions?
Yeah, actually, I just did a video on how to make a holdfast hold about a month and a half ago on this channel. So definitely take a look at that. The key to a holdfast is it's got to have friction. And as it binds in the head, it's going to rub on the top, on the back here, and on the bottom here. And so what I did is I take a file to it.
Hang on.
Yep, I'm waiting for it to focus. There we go. I'll take a file and I just rough it up. And I make all these scratches on the top here and then down inside here. and that way it has a little bit more of a coarse grip to grab on the hole. The other thing that is common is that the finish on the bench dripped down into the hole, and so you now have this smooth surface in the hole. So I take a rat tail file and go in and clean up the hole and get rid of that finish and kind of rough up the surface. The more friction you can add, the better. Then the next thing is, if you have a really thick bench top, usually like 4 inches or more, sometimes that can be a problem because the connection points are so far apart that there needs to be a lot of torque to get it down in there. In which case, what you can do is bore out the hole to actually make the connection point smaller. You want to bring that down to around 3 inches is good for most woods. Unless you're going softwoods, then I wouldn't want to do anything less than 3.5 or 4 inches. So yeah, but definitely take a look at that video. I go through a bunch of different options on there. What's next? Oh, yeah, let me go back to that because I saw a comment on there. There's basically 3 types of holdfasts. Number one, you can buy the cast holdfasts, and you'll see that the top has this squared corner, and you can tell that the whole thing has been cast. And so it isn't forged, it's cast. And those, number one, usually have a coating on them, and they tend to slide a bit. Number two, they will often break. And the 2 that I used to have both broke. I get the comment quite often is, my holdfasts keep breaking, what's wrong with them? Don't buy cast holdfasts. You'll see them with this square corner up there most of the time. The next one is like from Gramercy, you can actually get bent round shaft. And so what they do is they'll grab hot rolled 3/4 inch steel rods and just bend it to shape. Those work really well, though they tend to bend out of shape more often because they don't quite have the springiness. Springiness, yeah. And the shaft tends to be pretty smooth, so you have to go up and aggressively guard them up so that they hold nicely. Then the creme de la creme, the best ones are forged. And so these are rods that have been forged to the right size that adds texture all the way along the surface. Usually the heads are squared off and shaped, and then usually you can tell that they have a forged shape on here, or some of the, here, let me grab these are the ones from, oop, not that one. Where's my other one? Oh no, it fell. Oh, there it is. These are from Black Bear Forge, and so they're very pretty and ornate. But a good forged holdfast will treat you far, far better. So they cost a lot more though. Sorry, what's the next question?
We had lots of questions. I'm not even sure we're going to get through.
Well, let's see what we can get. So if we don't get to your question, throw a super chat up and we'll jump to it.
So let's see. Mr. Q asks, do we expect to see James challenge Matt Eslea dovetail time?
No.
Am I saying his name right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm not getting into that. It's, yeah. No, it's not my thing. It's a lot of fun though. Love seeing those comments. Although there have been like 24 people that have put up videos of beating his time, so it's yeah. What's next?
I joined the fray, but you know, I've never even got a dovetail in my
Someone's
life.
going to put the foot down, and it's going to be Sarah. Let us all bow before her dovetail greatness.
Right, because I've never even cut one, so you know.
We should do that. That'd make a really good video. Sarah's first dovetails.
You just want an excuse to buy me a new dovetail saw, so that...
No, you get this one, and I get the new one.
No, that's not how it works anymore. Conche. Anyway, Samuel's Custom Builds asks, what do you think is the best type of epoxy?
There are many different epoxies for many different uses. So it really depends on what you're wanting to use it for. If you're looking at a fill, if you're looking at gap filling, if you're looking at glue adhesion, there are lots of different epoxies for different uses. The most common one that I use for wood-to-wood gluing, I use, I used to use West Systems epoxy, which is the more structural of the two. However, it is the more expensive. When I was making a fiberglass airplane, I used that because it is a known substance. There are crazy amounts of tests that have been done on West System epoxy. It is, yeah, it's structural. It is known structural. Then there is Total Boat High Performance, and that's what I use now. It's a little more cost effective. It's, still you're going to put down $100 on a gallon. But most people generally consider that to be an investment because for the average person, a gallon kit of it will last you a decade or more. I was talking to one person who's had the same batch of epoxy been working on now for 12 years. So yeah, it lasts pretty well. But that is an incredibly good, strong epoxy. Most tests I've seen have actually put Total Boat slightly stronger than West System. But most of the time, if it's a good bond, the wood is going to fail long before the glue does. But yeah, that's what I use for my structural glue right now. I also have penetrating epoxy. I have thick set epoxies. I have crystal clear epoxies. I have turning epoxies. And there are lots of different epoxies for different uses. So yeah, hope that answers the question.
All right. Umbilicus wants to know, I plan on making a set of back saws, a carcass, a tenon, and a dovetail. What materials would be best suited to this? And are there any handle designs you feel are most comfortable?
Well, handle design is very personal. That is, that's one of the things that Rex Kruger and I vehemently disagree on. He's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. But he likes these store-made routed handles with the flat sides. He likes that and thinks that's comfortable. I think he's crazy. But hey, if you like it, that's what you want. So when it comes to the actual shape and design of it, that is completely up to you. The best patterns that I usually use go to Blackburn Toolworks. He's the same guy who makes my frame saw kits. He has a crazy resource on there. But he has saw handles, and you can actually measure your hand and get the pattern that then fits your hand. And then it'll have it in different sizes, all the way up from the dovetail saw all the way down to the frame saws, the hand saws. So for patterns, that's what I would get. As to the blade, just get simple spring steel. Don't worry too much about the best steel on that. It doesn't really matter that much. And you'll want thinner plate for your smaller saws and thicker plate for your bigger saws. So I hope that answers your question. If not, clarify and I will answer further. Is that super chat I saw?
It is. It's from Pablo, from Argentina.
Thank you,
buying
Pablo.
A joke and saying hi. All right. I hope you're a Star Wars fan, Pablo. If not, I apologize. What do you call a Jedi in a bubble bath?
What?
Soapy one, Kenobi.
You're my only sons.
You're my only sons.
There's a reason that we got married.
We just laugh at each other's dumb jokes.
Well, thank you, Pablo.
Thank you. Gracias. Let's see. Alan Isaac. What would you recommend as a good first project for using a draw knife? A bench?
The first project is just get a stick and make it really small. Go to town on it and have fun. Because that's one of the problems with a draw knife right off the bat is not taking off too much because it is a lot of fun. And a good sharp draw knife that's set up well will chomp through wood incredibly fast. And getting something two-dimension is actually a bit of a challenge because you often end up taking it a lot smaller than it should be. But what is a good first project? I mean, making a handle for an axe or something of that nature would be a great way to play with it and experiment it and shape it down. But honestly, the best project is whichever one you still need. Find a project that will actually do something for you, not just, I want to make a chair because I need to have a project. Make something you want to use. So there's something on your list that you want to make with it, and jump into that. Because if you have your heart in it, that will make it far more fun, and that's what's important.
All right, Ari Steven says, James, what was the most valuable lesson you learned from Sarah's bench project in the aspect of teaching that you could pass on to future teachers?
In the teaching, that is actually something that was very, very fun, because Sarah and I think on wildly different wavelengths. I think in a very three-dimensional functional workspace, and she thinks on this very interpersonal fairy tale space that I don't understand. And, like winding sticks.
I hate
Okay,
winding
this is one of these things that I never thought I'd really have to explain. If it's like this, then one side's higher than the other. If it's like this, then it's the opposite way. I mean, how do you explain winding sticks?
But it's like, where do you stare? If you've never seen them before, you cannot assume someone just knows how to use them.
Yeah, there were a lot of topics
That'd
like
be like me giving you a Foley catheter and say, stick it in.
I had to explain like five or six different ways. And finally, I'm about to give up and just be like, well, I guess we'll do something else. And then something clicked, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was like, oh, yeah, okay, I got it. And one of the reasons, this is actually one of the reasons why I have so many videos on the same topic. Like, how do you sharpen a chisel? I think I have like 4 videos on how to sharpen a chisel, and it's actually titled, How to Sharpen a Chisel. And each one of them is a different method of doing it. Actually, tomorrow's video is about how to sharpen tools. Not tomorrow, Thursday's video, 2 days from now. And each way is a different method or a different way of getting the information across, because everyone learns in a different way, and everyone will catch it once they hear a different combination of how things are being described. And so I try to teach things in multiple different methods, not just in how do you sharpen in different ways, but different ways of giving the same information multiple times. Because like sharpening a card scraper, there are thousands of videos out on how to sharpen a card scraper, and very few of them give the same information, and none of them give it in the same way. And most people are going to watch 10 to 15 of them before they finally find one that clicks and something that works. And that's just one of those things that I can explain it up one side and down the other, but until you find the explanation method that makes sense to you, it's just not going to click. And so being able to give it in multiple different methods is very important. And I learned that even more with Sarah, because I had to go in some weird ways.
He really was teaching a novice woodworker. Like, I didn't even grow up really.
They're winding sticks. You look down it and you see which one's twisted this way.
I'm going to beat you with the winding stick. But then there were certain things that were easy.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, then there were certain things that were like, I had to show a different method because she's shorter. You put your hand on top of the brace, their head on top of it, that doesn't work. It's like put your head on top of the brace. It's up there.
Yeah. I think, and if you're going to work with your spouse on a project,
always keep the expensive things between you and your spouse.
Okay, I wasn't going to say that.
Beware of working on coffins and doghouses.
I was going to say, make sure you mutually agree on the project, or you'll just be mad.
What's
Would
next?
it be called a whiny stick? Yes, it was probably a little whiny talking about them. Let's see. Mr. Q, if you were going to build a tool chest, would you prefer a Dutch, anarchist, or essentials like Mike Pekovic?
I honestly would probably build something wildly different. I had one a while ago that was like a regular tool chest but on end, so it was taller and it was on wheels so it could be rolled around because ease of movement would be important for me. Most of those chests are not easy to move. You have to tip them up on end and then you have to put them on a dolly to get them out, or you got to get several people who can really lift the thing and lug it around. The tool chests originally were created so you could lock your tools up. You could store them because you worked in a shop with many other woodworkers and everyone had their own tools. So you had to have a way to safeguard your tools when you weren't there. You locked them up. Or you'd have a wall cabinet so you could lock them up. You could close it up and protect them. And I don't have a need to do that. The other big reason for it nowadays is to be able to keep them dust free, because you're working in a power tool shop where there's other power tools, you got a lot of dust in the air, it settles on everything, and being able to put them in a cabinet or in a chest protects them from the dust. I like the tool wall because it is incredibly efficient. All of my tools are within 1 or 2 steps. I can grab any of my tools, put them on the bench, and when I don't need them, I can turn around and I can put them away. Just like that, all of my tools have a spot. They're all within reach. I'm 1 or 2 steps from every tool and every function in my shop. And everything is very efficient and usable. And that's why I like this setup rather than tool cabinets and chests. Though I have looked at making a rolling tool cabinet so I can take tools to events. But as of right now, I use a rolling plastic Stanley cabinet.
Modern times call for modern solutions.
If I had to pick, I would probably pick. I would probably pick a New England 18th century chest. That style with the sliding tills, I think that would be the most efficient for me. It would be the easiest to tip up and in to put in a dolly. Although, if you didn't make the Dutch chest too wide, you could put the dolly on the back of that and run it around. But yeah, different chests for different uses. What's next?
If you start building a chest, it means you're trying to hide your tools from me. Now, where's that? We already know the Bridge City Plains mine. Let's see. Greg Elliot, have you ever used Miller dowels, the stepped dowels? And if so, are they worth using?
I have never used them. I honestly don't see a direct reason to. There are lots of reasons for it, but as in the difficulty of making and using, just use a regular dowel. But personal preference, lots of different things for different people, so that's not my thing.
All right, let's see. Hang on 1 second.
I'm hanging on.
And I said this in the chat. I'm not sure that from here on out, if there's any new questions that we're going to get to them, because we still have probably 8 to 10 questions, and James likes to talk. So
if you really want your question answered, throw a super chat.
yes. All right, let's see. Poor man. Could I use the blade holding a piece from a Dollar Tree hacksaw?
Could you use what?
Could I use the blade? I don't know. This is from before. Poor man, was that a real question?
I'm thinking he's talking about this, the blade Ola?
I don't know.
What
the blade holding piece from a Dollar Tree hacksaw. It was
Oh,
back
yeah,
when
yeah.
you were talking about the project.
Actually, I made a turning saw 4 or 5 years ago now that I actually made from a torn apart hacksaw. It was a cheap one. And I used, for the blade, I took an old bandsaw blade and drilled 2 holes in it and used those as in the hacksaw pins. So yeah, you can do that. Do I have that up here? Or did I give that away to someone? I may have given that turning saw away. No, it broke. That's right, it broke. I didn't give that one away. But yeah, no, you can do that. It is straightforward and fairly simple. Just won't work quite the same way as this one will. What's next?
Let's see. Jose Mejia asked, how thick should a workbench be?
It depends on you and what you want and what it's made out of. The softer the wood is, usually the thicker you want it to be. If you're making it out of a pine, Douglas fir, I generally wouldn't go any thinner than 3 inches. 3.5, 4 would be best. So making it out of 2x4s laminated horizontally or vertically, that actually works out pretty well. My first bench was Douglas fir 2x4s. Really good bench. If you're making out of something harder, you can often get away with something thinner. I've seen some 2-inch bench tops out of maple that were really stout and solid. For me, mine is 4 inches of white oak. I think that's just about perfect. There's a little bit of bounce if I'm really banging on something in the middle. Although most if I need to bang on something, I'm going to do it over the leg and I don't feel anything there. If I were to make another bench, well, okay, here's my dream. My dream is to find a tree where I can get a quarter sawn piece out of it that is 6 inches thick by 20 inches across by 8 foot long and make the bench out of that single piece. That is my dream. Trees don't grow like that though. It would have to be like a 50 to 55, maybe 60-inch wide tree with straight or relatively straight grain and an 8 foot long trunk. That's going to be really hard to find. But if I can ever find one, I would, yeah, that would be my dream.
Made me think of I Have a Dream, the song from Tangled. Anyways.
A really big tree.
Let's see. What does Kuro say? I have F-clamps that are not holding the pressure. They come loose after some time. Is there any way to fix them without drilling holes through the moving jaw and bar and fitting a pin?
Yeah, I've never much cared for F-clamps. Yeah, the only I don't actually have any F-clamps in my stock. I have the slide clamps, and these I only use for temporary or light pressure holding. I never put anything with any serious amount of pressure on these. For me, all of mine are in use right now, actually over there. I love hand screw clamps. These are incredibly strong. You can put an unbelievable amount of force on them. They are just all around my favorite general clamp for smaller pieces. And so 90% of the time I'm using these for anything like 8 inches and less. I'm not a huge fan of F-clamps. As to the particular F-clamp you have, I would have to see what shape, what type it is. Some of them have like file notches cut in the back that add friction that it can grab into. But there are a whole bunch of different types out there, so I would have to see which ones you have and what type you have. But yeah, usually if you want pressure, F-clamps aren't the way to do it. F-clamps are good for holding something generally, or putting mild pressure on something. They're not really good for cranking things down. What's next?
Let's see. Noah Critch asks, what kind of wood would be best for a first workbench?
Whatever you got, honestly. For your first one, don't make a forever bench. You're never going to make a forever bench on your first one, so don't even try. Make something that is cost effective and something you work on. Douglas fir, pine benches, they work great. Poplar is very good, very affordable, very easy. An honest opinion, the perfect wood for a bench would be something like a soft maple, a red maple, a silver maple, something like that. It's soft enough that it's probably going to dent before your work does, but yet it's still stout enough that you don't have much vibration in it. It's relatively easy to work with. That would be my best lumber if you could get a soft maple. I'm not a huge fan of hard maple benches. Those are like the official best wood or beech, but I don't subscribe to that thought process. Again, it's personal preference. So honestly, any wood out there is going to make a great bench. As long as it's not balsa or some crazy soft pine, you're good to go. I don't know, that sounds like a really good YouTube video. I made a balsa bench. I gotta do this now. What's next?
Anyways, Butch Landry asks, do you have a leg vise?
I have 2 of them. Actually, I have 3 of them. And then there's the one that I gave to my parents. Let me grab this around. And I have videos on both of these. I don't use leg vises that often. They don't fit into my woodworking style. I have these 2 on here, and the reason I have 2 is just for demonstration's sake. Sometimes I want to show got my pin down in there. I want to show a wooden screw. I need to oil this one, I don't use it as much. Or this one is a Hovarter quick release vise. So it slides in and out, and then at any point I can crank it down and it locks down in place. And so this is fast and efficient. That one's a little more traditional. And so, yes, I have leg vises. And if you want to see this bench, I have a whole build series on building this bench and individual videos on installing each of these leg vises. And then my old bench, I have 2 videos on installing those leg vises. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have at least 12 videos on installing vises.
Sarah does not have a leg vise.
What's that?
Said mine does not have a leg vise.
No.
And I probably won't need one for a while.
No, I 99% of the time I'm using my end face vise because it can work as a wagon vise, it can work as a Moxen vise, it can work as a straight leg vise, it can work as a detail vise. Basically everything can be done in this. Though I tend to work on the end of my bench, whereas most right-handed people will actually work on that corner of the bench. I'm a bit weird, but I actually work down here. This is where 90% of my work is done, right in this corner. So, what's next?
Let's see. Michael Green asked, I was attempting my first BLO paste wax finish and applied the paste wax before the BLO had fully dried. Should I reapply the paste wax or just buff it out? Thanks.
Nope, just let it go. If you just put 1 or 2 coats of BLO on, there's more than enough oxygen inside the wood to polymerize the BLO, so no problem at all for there. Yeah, most of the time when I'm putting on paste wax, I'll put on the BLO, and I'll put on like 2 or 3 coats sequentially until the wood stops soaking it up instantly. And then I'll wipe off the excess, wait 15, 20 minutes or so, and then I'll immediately put on the paste wax. And I'll let that sit, depending on the type of paste wax, 4 hours to overnight, and then I'll come back and buff and polish the paste wax. That's my normal method. So there are people out there who will do a full curing of the BLO between coats of BLO, and then they'll do a full curing before they put on paste wax. But I don't use BLO as much for a sequential additive finish. I prefer it to be a soak-in, just add color and initial polymerization to the surface. What's next?
All right, I got 6 questions. We're going to end with these.
You're going to do 6?
We're going to do 6.
We're going to go a little later, people.
Some of them aren't going to take very long.
Okay. Yes, yes, no, no, yes, yes, maybe. Got it.
Craig Elliot said, is your Danish frame saw on the black wall the non-roubo from Blackburn Tools as well?
No. My Continental saw. It was one of the interesting things when England and the Americas switched over to back saws. The continental Europeans stuck with bow saws, and these are great for doing detail work. This particular one is a longer. This would be more like a large tenon saw. I don't use it as much just because I don't have a lot of reason for it. I'd rather actually use a back saw. Those are much easier to control. These take a lot more balance, and they're a little harder to control, though it does make them fun. The nice thing about this, though, is if I need to make a much deeper tenon than my tenon saw can do, this one I can actually turn the handles, and I can cut this way, and I can cut an infinitely deep tenon. So it's very, very useful for that. And no, this one is from Uberger. It's made in Germany. Here. Let's see if I can get it to focus on this. Did it focus?
Kinda. There you go.
There you go. So yeah, that's who made it. I bought this one at MWTCA meet. I've used it a few times, but not that much. What's next?
Kim Erickson. Question for Sarah. What was your favorite tool on the project? The Bridge City plane. Hands down favorite. Because it's the only one my size.
The Bridge City block plane.
James kind of bought it as just not a joke, but...
Well, it was a Bridge City tool that was on sale for 50% off. And, you know, I always wanted a Bridge City tool, so I bought it. And Sarah kept it.
It's very good for small hands.
Yes.
So if you have children, it's an easy block plane to use. Yeah, so things for like chamfering and stuff, it's easy to hold. The other ones are kind of bulky for me. So yeah, if I had to pick one, that would be the one I would pick. Let's see. Ari Steven asks, your split stream with Rob Kosman was compelling. You have two different building styles. What did you learn from your conversation with Rob?
Learned not too much because we kind of talked through what we were planning on talking about ahead of time. Because one of the big reasons for it was getting the word out about PHP and what he's doing there and how people can help out and that type of thing. But as to like Rob and I, both of our channels have different purposes. Rob's channel is to teach fine woodworking. He wants to teach how to accomplish the best woodworking you can. And he does it in a very traditional, not traditional as in like historical, but as in a conventional woodworking manner, as in how publications have done it in the past. And you follow his methods and you will get very exacting quality work. And that is where he shines. You're not going to get that here. I don't teach quality work. I don't teach fine woodworking. I try not to tell people that I teach woodworking. I'm here to share the joy of woodworking. I want to bring people back around to having fun in the woodwork. Whether or not you're actually making anything, I don't care. Whether or not you're actually, doing something proper, I don't care about that. I want to do things in the most fun method. And most of the time that means it's not a conventional method. It's not something that is the right way to do it. It's the way that I find it to be fun. And so that's why our channels are very different and we approach things very differently. And that's one of the fun things about woodworking is there is no right way to do it. There is no wrong way to do it. As long as you're doing it safe and you're having fun with it, you're accomplishing the task you're wanting, that's what matters. And so it's kind of one of those things to jump in, have fun. There's lots of different ways to do it.
You don't see Rob's wife in behind the camera. No. They have 10 children. They have mad respect. Yeah, no. 3's good enough for me.
When we were first dating, I was like, 1 kid sounds good. And Sarah's like, 6 kids sounds good. Then we had 1. And I was like, yeah, we can do 2. She's like, maybe 4. We got to 3 and we're like, okay, we're both done. We're good. What's next?
Let's see. Michael C. How much per board foot is white oak going for in your area?
Depends on where you're buying it. If I go to the hardwood dealer, flat sawn white oak is $3 a board foot, maybe $3.50, something like that. Quarter sawn is $4.50 to $5 a board foot. I have a couple local sawyers that I usually buy from, and I'm usually going to be spending $2 to $3 a board foot for quarter sawn. Flat sawn I might be able to get for $1.50 to $2 a board foot. Although a lot of the lumber I purchased I'll find on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and it'll be cleaning out Dad's barn. He has a pile of lumber, 50 cents a board foot. I've done a couple like that where I bought $400 worth of white oak at one time for, I think I ended up paying like 40 cents a board foot. But yeah, you don't come across those very often. It's like once a year, once every 2 years. But when you do, you buy all of it you can, and that's good. That's one of the reasons why at the beginning everything in Wood by Wright was made of white oak. I mean, it's still a great wood, but I got a great deal on it, so everything was made out of what I had on hand. Yeah, the prices on hardwoods really haven't gone up if you buy them from a hardwood dealer or a sawyer. But if you're buying them from a lumberyard or big box store, then the prices are through the roof. Although not as much for hardwoods. It was more for like the construction materials.
All right, last question. Aiden Muhammad asked, what do you think about Rex Kruger's joiner's bench?
Which one? He's got a couple.
Vietnamese?
No, he's got, he's done like his $30, like a Roman style bench. And he's got a couple others that, yeah. Well, that's one of the interesting things is with Rex. So like, Rob is all about fine woodworking. I'm all about the fun of woodworking. Rex is all about the cost-effective woodworker. Someone who is really crunching the numbers and making things efficiently. And so he has a lot more focus on time efficiency and money focus. And that's a really cool thing. Yeah, we're actually trying to get together with him to do a live sometime with him as the two of us.
The glare.
What?
The glare of the two of you.
Bald heads unite.
I'm sorry, I'm already picking on him.
Yeah, no, he has. There are so many great bench designs out there, and that's one of the things that there is no best bench design. There is no great bench design. Every bench has a purpose that it was designed for, and so you've got to, are you looking for the most cost-effective bench? Are you looking for the best one for your space? Are you looking for your construction type? You're looking for something you can take apart. You're looking for something that's beefy and heavy. Are you looking for something that's mobile? There are so many different characteristics that go into bench types that you got to pick the one that works best for what you need and what you want, and what you have. So that is that. Are we done with questions?
I am calling it done.
Cool.
I don't think.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. This was a good one. We had a lot of good comments on here, and we do a Q&A on whichever Tuesday falls on a teen in the month. So stay tuned for that. And we're still trying to find the time because we were going to have Rex coming on the first Tuesday in August, but he had a conflict he just messaged me about that we won't be able to do it then. So we might be doing it like the second Tuesday in August. We'll see. And then maybe Anne of All Trades will be coming up soon. So yeah, it'll be fun. I'm going to try and do that at like the first Tuesday of each month, but we'll see if that actually works out. Cool. Well, then on that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Do you have any other questions?
No.
No? So I think I'll do it. So until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye. Bye.